All right, so the camera is reading 3 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. How you guys all doing? All right. Okay, all ready? All right, so this is going to be an introduction to Firebase. If you were expecting something else, then you need to go to a different room. My name is Terry Ryan. I'm a developer advocate for Google. I'll be talking about Firebase. Basically, this is how this is going to work. I'm going to talk about Firebase for a little while, just to sort of explain it, explain what you do with it, explain why you'd use it. Then we'll do a hands-on lab. Hands-on lab, has anybody here used Firebase at all before I get started? Okay, if you've already used Firebase, the lab is going to be pretty intro. So just setting your expectations that if you want to vote with your feet, it's going to be pretty intro. The idea is to just get our first chat bat made so that you kind of understand kind of how easy it is to work with Firebase. After we go hands-on with it, then I'm going to talk about some kind of going further with it, but it'll be a talk, it won't be hands-on, so it'll probably be half talk, half hands-on. Does that sound like a good mix? Okay? And if not, I apologize. So before I get started and talk about Firebase and everything, I kind of want to get a better idea of who you guys are. I mean, I know you guys are all HackingEDU, HackingEDU participants, but like, what's your background? So how many people here see themselves as either looking towards development, be developers? Okay. Anybody here a designer? Anybody here a business person that snuck into this hacking conference? Oh, there he is. When he corners you. No, sorry. So okay, you're all developers. Are you guys working primarily on the web? Are you working systems? Are you working, so let's go web. Okay, systems, back-end stuff. You're firing up servers. Okay, and then what was the other? Mobile. Okay. All right. Is anyone here not comfortable writing HTML, JavaScript, and CSS? Okay. All right. Well, you will be more uncomfortable as this session goes on. All right. So prereqs. Obviously, you need to, if you're going to do the hands-on part, you're going to need internet connection. You're going to need a browser. You're going to need the ability to write HTML, JavaScript, CSS. I told you. And then a text editor will also be nice. So if you've got those things, you should be good to go and ready to work on this. All right. So what is Firebase? So quick facts about Firebase, because I talk about Firebase and yet there's like Google logos everywhere. What's going on? So Firebase, if you don't know, was a company founded in 2011. It was acquired by Google last October. We currently have about 180,000 developers using it and over 1 million concurrent connections with everything we've done. I spelled that out early to get the whole, like, why is this guy from Google talking about Firebase? Because now we're the same. So Firebase is a real-time backend as a service, and tried to use as few words as possible to describe it, and that's how you do it, real-time backend service. What does that mean? Well, obviously, when we talk about real-time, we're talking about things that are pertinent right now, right? The data is important for now, and as it ages, it becomes less and less important. And so if you need to know something right now and it needs to be true at this moment, you're looking for a real-time solution. If you're looking for something that was true 10 hours ago, it's not as important to be real-time. So what kind of things are these? So where your bus is. So let's fire up this. So this right now it's very San Francisco centric because this is where the original office for Firebase is. And we're seeing in real time the buses, the transit system in San Francisco. And you'll see that we're getting actual motion here on Market Street. These are actual trains that are moving right now. This data is being updated from each individual bus or trolley. It's being updated to a central place, and Firebase is listening to that and pushing out those changes to any client that's listening to it. So that is a good example of real-time data. What else do we have here? It's also your idea. So here is, let's see, here's a cool app. This is a collaborative whiteboard. So let me pull up the second copy of it here. Okay, so you see I've got 2 versions of this, and you'll see as I move the cursor around, it's moving on both at the same time. And as I write, see I can make this one write in red, And then this one will write in green. And you won't see it because I don't have the other one on the screen, but you see they're getting added immediately, right? As I switch it over to this one, that one's still in red. So I'm able to wire up this drawing app to very quickly talk between all the individual instances. And as I do one thing on one of them, it changes it immediately on the next one. Let's see. Next example of this. Whoa. Oh, I skipped. I didn't know you could do that. You could click on a link that hasn't been clicked yet. There we go. All right. So we've got a nice little game here, right? Game is another place where real-time data really matters. So on this first one, I'm going to set this one moving. And then it never fails, despite the fact I'm not using this. The first one is going to win just because I'm terrible at this game. Oh, no, it crashed into something. All right. Oh, no, I crashed into it. But as you see, I'm seeing in real time what the other one is doing, and that information is being synced back and forth pretty much immediately, right? So that's what we mean by real time. This is the type of data where it being fresh and being up to date to the very second is important. So that's what Firebase handles, and it handles it pretty well. So real time is hard. Has anybody here tried to do like real time syncing between apps before? Yeah, is it fun to do it manually? No, it's really, really hard. First off, the transport is pretty complex, right? So at best, you're dealing with some sort of socket, but then different OSs have different issues with sockets, and then there's a fallback, and then that's going to depend on which system you're on, and that's if you're using direct in the OS. If you're using web, you have to deal with WebSockets and the fallback from that. It's sort of a pain in the ass. And then add to it that all of that fallback and all of that control is based on the fact that you know in your heart of hearts that this network is going to go down at some point. You just know, right? Like, for example, we're going to do Firebase as a lab, right? And I'm going to do real stuff in front of you based on the fact that my internet connection works, which is like doing live demos with networking services is like acting with children or animals. You never really want to do it. And this is why, because the network I know it's going to go down. And then finally, doing all of that on one platform, writing up the code to do that on one platform alone is challenging enough. When you start to add multiple platforms to it, you add, at least 2, 3, 4, however many platforms you need to support. So backend, we know it's when your data, where your data goes when your mobile dies, or where data goes when your browser closes. If you're dealing with data that you're not storing anywhere else, again, this isn't necessarily something that you need to be doing. If you're dealing with like large picture files, that's not really what this is for. This is for data that's going to be stored somewhere else so that it's available when these devices are down. And finally, service is you don't have to run it, right? So getting started with Firebase, you will not have to run any server. You don't have to write any configuration code. You can just, with very minimal work, get up and running right away. So CBS has used it, Twitch has used it, Envision uses it. This is kind of a cool app. Has anybody here used Envision? Envision is cool. Basically, this is a UI mock-up, and people are marking it up on a phone. I know it looks like an inbox. What they're doing is they're actually going through the interface and saying, I don't like this, I don't like this. And they're able to do it in real time. So they get a mock-up from a client, or they get a mock-up they're going to give to a client. They can, in real time, mark it up and say, this is what's terrible about this, and send it back, which they struggled with for a long time to do before they moved over to using Firebase. So that was the pitch. I tried to keep that as brief as possible to explain it, but then get into the mechanics of using it. So the first thing we need to do is you need to sign up for an account with Firebase. So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to do this. It really is pretty quick. You just go to firebase.com, and up at the top, it'll say sign in or join. Firebase.com, log in or sign up. Choose sign up. I already I'm a member, so I can't really sign up, but it's relatively straightforward. So if we go back, just want to sign up. If you are not comfortable signing up, I understand. You still can follow along and you'll be fine. But this way you can get started in your version, your vision, what you're seeing on your screen will match what I'm doing up on the screen. The second thing, while you're doing that, if you get done that early, is I have this whole lab at this bit.ly link. So bit.ly.com/tpryan/firebase/lab. You'll want to pull this down because a lot of places it's a lot of boilerplate typing, like an HTML template, which doesn't really add a lot of value if we walk through it line by line. So you can just copy and paste it when we get there. Yes, you had a question. I apologize. Oh. So I cannot help you. But hopefully it's working now. Was it the network that was?
Oh, no, it works now.
Okay, good. All right, good. So I think it speaks for the whole room, or I should not get anywhere near you again. Sorry about that. All right, how's everybody doing? Are we signed in? We good? I'll give it another minute. And you can pull down this bit.ly link. All it is a PDF file. It's nothing crazy. It just will be kind of going through this word for word. And like I said, I just want it up there so that you don't have to type a lot of boilerplate code. All right. Yes? Okay. Uh-oh. Do you already have an account?
No, I'm trying to make one.
Oh.
That's weird.
It's, did you get the same thing?
No, I already have them.
Okay.
I think that if everybody's signing up with one IP address.
We've done labs before, so it shouldn't be. Yeah, try it. Yeah, if you have another email address, try it. Anybody else? Okay, did you try a different email address? Try a different email address. And it could be just like that many at one, because you guys did it really fast. So it could be that was just too much. But we've done labs before, so should not be a problem. Yeah. Firebase, a bunch of things. There's Mongo as the back end. There's also Scala in there. Scala is the main programming language they used on it. And then each individual API obviously is written in whatever language we write in. But I think Scala is the main one. All right, so I'm going to move forward. If anybody has trouble, you can pull down the lab and you can kind of go through it. Anybody here wants an account but can't get it? It's okay. If everybody else will close their eyes. You're afraid of? Okay, good. So it looks like we're good. All right, so let's go through this. So as I go through this lab, down on the very first page, there's this HTML here. We're going to copy and paste this because, again, it's HTML. Whoa, that's not happened before. Hold on a second. Oh, because I'm doing it from the PDF. Okay. Well, all right. If the spacing really bothers you guys, I apologize. I will. You can't copy out of the PDF? All right. Anybody else having a problem copying out of the PDF? Yeah? What's it? Oh, so you might want to download it and then copy it off the preview. Or copy it not using the preview of it. So when you do this, I'll walk real quick through the HTML while people are pulling it down. Basically, I've got a form. Pretty straightforward. I also have a div that's going to hold our results. Basically, we're going to create a chat. You're going to put name and a message, and that message will eventually show up in the results section. I also have a script block at the bottom here because we're going to use that to put our script into, and that's pretty much the structure of it. Now I'm going to ask one more copy and paste, and then everything else we'll kind of walk through and type. And that second copy and paste is Down below here, there's a script that's, you'll see that it's HTTPS, CDN, Firebase. Basically, we're going to pull down the Firebase client. And because that's like a long string of characters where, making a mistake will be hard to detect, we'll just copy and paste it, and there we go. And that's pretty much all you need. You have the account, and you have this. Now, for those of you that were able to get an account, we're going to look at that real quick. Let's see. Log in. So you should have an account, and you should have a demo. Should have like an app already ready to go. It's going to give you sort of an arbitrary name there. I have mine as TP Ryan Chat. I would advise you not to use that. I would use your own. And you're going to click on Manage the App, and you should have nothing there. That was for me testing. But you should have something that looks like this when you kind of get in. This is the Firebase storage, and this is what we're going to be writing to. It should be the name of your ID, the ID. You should see the ID of your app that you have set up on Firebase that they set up for you already there. Everybody cool with that so far? Yeah? It's okay if you're not? Okay, all right. Okay, so we're all ready to go. We've got Firebase set up. We've got a HTML file that's going to take that. The other thing you may want to do is kind of load your HTML file to a browser, just because we're going to go to it a couple times and run stuff through it. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is down in the script block down below, we're going to make our first reference to Firebase. So I'm going to create a var my Firebase. Again, arbitrary name here equals new Firebase. And then to initialize this, I need the URL from Firebase. So if you go over back to here, this URL right here. So it's going to be your app your app's name, and it comes up when you look at it here. It's yourapp.firebaseio.com. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, so that's it. I'm now connected to that Firebase client, but I need to start putting data into it. The way I'm going to put data into it is by grabbing stuff from the form and uploading it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add an event listener to the text field. So I've got name, I've got text. I want to add an event listener so when someone presses enter on the text field, we'll go to it. So document.query selector. Anybody here know jQuery? Yeah? So this is the equivalent of $ parentheses. I'm going to do it in raw JavaScript instead of making you also use jQuery. So query selector star text dot add event listener. And just so you know, all of these steps are done in the PDF. So if like you run into trouble, you misspell something, you can just copy and paste from there and it'll work. So add event listener. We're going to listen for key up, I think. Here's where I need to go and double check. Yeah, key press. So key press, add event listener key press, and then we're going to add a listener right here, function. And then there we go. All right, so we should all be set up. We're going to listen for, and we're going to want to pass an E into that function for the event. All right. So we don't want this firing every time someone does something, so we're going to say E, let's see, if E dot key code equals 13. So if someone types if someone types an enter, which the key code for enter is 13, we want to do something. What do we want to do? We want to grab the value of name and text. So we're going to say document dot query selector. Let's see. This is name dot value. Okay, and we're going to set that to, let's just be unoriginal here and call it name. Okay. And then I'm going to cheat and copy and paste that because I'm lazy. To text. Okay, is everybody cool with this so far? Am I going too slow? Am I going too fast? Just right? Slower? Okay. All right. So I'll wait till I see kind of eyes that we're ready.
Also, you're redefining names.
Ah, yes, thank you. That's what happens when you're lazy and you copy and paste. Thank you for understanding. All right, so all of this, none of this has anything to do with Firebase. This is what I have to do if I was grabbing this data for anything. Now let's do the Firebase part. We want to send this to Firebase, so we're going to say my Firebase.set. And then we're going to write a message in here. And I'm just going to concat this together. I'm going to say name plus says plus text. Okay? So we've got something pretty straightforward. We've got an event listener to text. When someone presses the enter key, it's going to grab the name, grab the text, and send it to Firebase as my Firebase.set. Okay? So in theory, I'm going to leave this up so if people are typing, they can grab it. But in theory, when I run this, assuming there are no typos, which you can't really assume that, but assuming there are no typos, it'll add it to Firebase. So we'll go over here to index. We'll refresh. We've got name, message. I'm going to say Terry and message equals hello. Live demo. No. Okay. I've screwed something up, which is, you know, outside the realm of possibility. So I'm going to see here. New developer tools. Ah, Firebase is not defined. Okay, what did I do? Uh-oh. All right. What the? Script. That's right. Well, that's sort of hurts. Hold on a second here. I'm going to copy and paste from a version that I know works. See what I screwed up here. And script. Okay. And I'm just going to copy this in. Trying to figure out what I did wrong here. No, it's just a different version of it. It's okay. Let's see. No, should work. I apologize. All right, let me try running this again. Okay, good. All right. So I must have. There must be a typo somewhere in the URL somewhere or something, but basically it should have worked. Okay, so when I do that, if I go back to Firebase, you'll see that I forgot a space, but I added it to Firebase. Has people gotten this, or did the typo carry over to you guys too? Yes.
When I go to my Firebase site, it just goes to the graphical debugger instead of the input area.
Oh, interesting. Mind if I try for a second?
Fine. If I just put in my link.
Oh. Is this the one?
Yeah. Yeah, it just goes straight to here instead of the.
Oh no, this is the right. This is the right view, right? Yeah.
No, well, like, how did you get to the view where you type in your name?
Why isn't yours?
You type in the name. And
Like I just saw you had this one link, like this one.
oh, though that's the index. That's the HTML file we've been using. So you got to fire that up in a browser. All right. Are people completely lost, or are we good?
I think the typo is still like bugging me.
Okay, the typo is still bugging people. All right. So let's call it the code. This is the code that works. Make sure that the script up here is closed, this Firebase script, because that seemed to be what was not being called properly, because it was saying that this new Firebase didn't count. And you did Firebase with a capital F?
Yeah.
All right. Has anybody gotten it to work? Let's start there. Okay. Bad. All right. What's that? Oh, nice. All right. So we're starting to get there. Do you mind if I look over somebody's shoulder? Someone brave enough to let me look over the shoulder so I can try to figure out?
It said there's something wrong with line 21, I think, when I looked in the console. But no, I got it.
Okay. Illegal token on line 21. All right, let me see line 21 again. Did it grab, are those special quotes and around a name, like when you copied and pasted it?
I think, yeah.
That might have been it. Sorry, when I...
Is there a difference? Like you can't have...
No, sometimes when you grab from a document, it grabs display quotes instead of...
Oh, instead of what? Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
whatever they're called. All right. Okay, so we're having a mixed bag here, and I apologize. Is anybody coming around still? Yeah? So Firebase is not defined. So you're getting the same exact problem I had. Let's look up here. Why? It's not calling that file. Why not? Could you try changing these to quotes, to like double quotes? Okay. Now, can you refresh and see if that works? Uncut reference Firebase is not allowed. All right. So people that are not having it work, it's Firebase. Firebase is not defined, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's
And then there's this get prevent default.
is deprecated? All right, that's. I wouldn't worry about that. It's just deprecated. It's still allowed.
Line 21 is just this one.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with it.
Okay, so are people getting errors around line 21? Yeah. All right. I think the line 21 issue is that it doesn't like the quotes, the double quotes. Replace them with single quotes, that's fine. The problem is that when we copied and pasted from that doc, I tested it against Google Doc, which you guys can't get to my version of Google Docs, it's Google only. So I put it into a PDF and I didn't test it from the PDF. So try changing the quotes out.
Yeah, that works.
So that does work?
Yeah.
So it is the quotes.
Yeah.
All right, we've identified it. So in this line, replace the quotes that you copied and pasted with these quotes. Like just delete the quote and replace it. And same thing if you have quotes here. So yeah, sorry about this. Like I was trying to explain, I tested this in Google Doc, but not in PDF. So from PDF, it had some formatting issues when you paste it in. So I apologize for that.
I have the same like quotes that.
No, but delete them anyway. And what's that? Still doesn't work? Still Firebase not? So still Firebase not defined.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I look over your shoulder? I'm going to give this another minute, and then if we can't go forward, I'm at least going to go forward and...
There's actually the file here, and for some reason...
Okay. So hit refresh and let me see what happens. Console. Firebase is not defined. On line 21. Let's see line 21, and line 21 is that.
Firebase.
Okay.
I spelled it wrong, right?
No, it's spelled right. Can you go back up in the code version? The sublime version, rather? And you already replaced those quotes?
Oh, yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
All right. So for some people that fix worked, and for some people it didn't. I apologize, but I'm going to move on. There's an online version of this tutorial that you can walk through. If you're really still interested after this, I apologize. It's some sort of text formatting issue, and I'm very sorry about that. But let's move on in the interest of expediency. So we see here where we are. We basically took a string and set it into Firebase, and that updates immediately. And if I go back and let's go back to the app, and I change this string to say, let's see, what did I say? I said, say test. What if I say hello, right? I'll do that, it fixes it. But if you notice, it basically wiped out what was there before. So this is chat, and that's sort of not really that helpful, right? Because if someone comes in later, they want to see what else has happened. So what we need to do is sort of style this a little bit differently. The first piece of that is changing this from storing just a string that we make up. You don't really want to store a string like that. That's really a display issue. So you'd want to store just sort of the data itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here under set, and instead of setting the name to a string, I'm going to set it to an object by adding braces. And I'll say name colon equals name, comma, text colon text, right? And if I want to be really idiomatic about it, I'll add quotes around those just so that I should quit while I'm ahead with the quotes since that's the problem, but I'm going to risk it. And so let me make that change. So when I make that change and refresh, Terry says, work please. And when I do, we'll see that instead of saving it as a string, we've saved it as an object. We still have that problem where we're updating the same object over and over again, because if I go back and change this, I'll say work again, and you'll see that it changes that, and you see it updated right away. So that's great, but we want to save a chain of these, right? Because we're going to have people talking. So let's do that. I'm going to do that by changing this set here. So right now I say set. And I can set anywhere in the Firebase chain. I can go deeper down the root if I wanted to. But I am just going to set on the top of the root. And I'm going to say, instead of saying set, I'm going to say push. That's it. That's the only thing I need to change. When I make that change, when I change Firebase set to Firebase push, and I refresh, Terry, hello, hello, yet again. You are a boring chatter. When I do that, you'll see that I now have a bunch of objects stored here. Each one has its own ID. And you'll see I can keep doing a list of it. So that's sort of the two types of data you can store. I can store just an object key, right? If it's one piece of data that every one of us would change, then I can update it by using set. If, however, it's a set of data. So like, for example, a bus. A bus is going to have one reference in here. When they update their location, they're going to update it directly on their object. Whereas with something like chat, where I've got a whole bunch of people just putting stuff into it, there's no unique identifier for each one of them, so I'm going to just put them into an array. So I have them in an array. We're all ready to go. So the next thing I want to do is we have this chat going, but we're not really listening. This is like the epitome of like modern trouble, right? We speak, but we're not listening to the other person. So it'd be nice if the other chatter could, be heard. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dump data here into this div, this ID. So I'm going to create a function that's display message. And from that, I'm going to take a name. I'm also going to spell function right. That would be helpful. I'm going to take a name and a text. And again, spelling correctly seems to be my bane today, so I apologize. All right, so I'm going to create a new HTML element, var HTML. And I'm going to just do this the easy way. I'm just going to build a string that's HTML. So I'm going to say div. Actually, I'm going to use single quotes here and then say div class equals message. And then div class equals name. Okay. Then I'm going to add name to that. And then I'm going to close that div. Open a new one, which is class equals. See, I'm going to change back to single quotes because I screwed that up. Class equals text. I'll add the text. And then I'll finish up by closing off both of those divs. Okay. Nothing too crazy. And again, none of this has anything to do with Firebase. I just want to display this data, and I need to use this to do it. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, document, query selector. Let's see, it's results, inner HTML, plus equals. So I'm going to concat this to what's there, HTML. So relatively simple and straightforward. What I'm doing is creating a string that contains a div. That div is a message. It has two divs in it, name and text. And then I'm going to append it to the inner HTML of the results section up above. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Again, nothing to do with Firebase, just creating some HTML. So the next thing I want to do is I want to listen whenever Firebase updates and make those changes. So I'm going to add an event listener to Firebase, and it'll be much easier than that. I'll say my Firebase on child added. So basically, anytime a child gets added, I would like to call this function. And that function has a snapshot. Okay? So basically, every time a child is added, Firebase is going to fire off an event. I'm listening for that event. When that happens, it's going to pass in an object, and I'm going to call that object a snapshot. I'm going to take that snapshot, and I'm going to create just an arbitrary object here. I'm going to call it message. Message equals snapshot.val. Okay? So basically, give me the value of whatever. There's other information that's stored in that snapshot, but I just want the value. Give me the value. And the value is going to be whatever object was passed in before. And then I'm just going to fire that over to display message and say message.name, message.text. All right. So that should work. I'll fire this off, and you'll see that it did. It added all of this. It also added a whole bunch of undefines. That's because it doesn't like these objects here, so I'm going to wipe this out. I'll remove it all. There we go. And now, I should be able to, in real time, add messages. I'll say, Terry, hello, hey again. And if I were to call up another instance of this and say Firefox, so we know it's not sharing any sort of memory, I can see all of this again. Earl, my alter ego Earl says hello too. So that's it. Like, I've created a chat client. It's not a very pretty chat client, but we created it and it's all ready to go. Now I can go through and polish this. Owing to our difficulties, I'm not going to walk through polishing it. I'm just going to go to the polished version. Let's see. I'm just going to, actually, I cannot. So let's just do this. there's a whole bunch of CSS in here. I can just add it to it. If I add this to the top, let's see. If I add this under the script, I should get a slightly more polished version of this. No, because of some quote somewhere. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead, copying and pasting out of this. So this is a very kind of easy, actually I do have CSS that works for later on. Grab this. Okay. I do that. There we go. I get a little bit more of a traditional message look and feel to it. Okay, so that's the hands-on stuff. I apologize for the breakdown there. I'm going to give another minute, and then I'm going to go and talk about what you can do with Firebase after this, right? So this is where the rest of the HTML screwed us up somewhere. The Firebase stuff is actually pretty lightweight and pretty easy. You saw it was only like one command to listen and one command to add. And we have chat now working from that. Okay. So, going further with Firebase. All right, so we wrote something entirely in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and we did that using the JavaScript API. Now, obviously, we can do that with browsers, but we can also go further and do that with Node.js if we want to and run like basically a server-side listener. So if you've got an app that's written in Node and you want to do something with a real-time front-end client, you can connect the two and have the two talk to each other, which is kind of cool. But that's not it. We also can do Objective-C. So if you want to write a iOS or OS X app, you can do that and hook up with the Firebase APIs to do that directly. You can also do Java. So this was sort of, the intention was to target directly into Android, but it's just a generic Java wrapper. So you can also do it with any sort of JVM language. You can talk to it directly. So with that, Firebase becomes compatible with a whole bunch of technologies right out of the gate. But there are a lot of technologies that aren't listed up here. Anybody here use Python? PHP? Let's see. Anything else that's not listed up here? Ruby, good catch. So if you want to work with those things, you can still do so. You would use the REST API. So it's good for non-client solutions, right? For backends. But you have to be cognizant of a couple things. Most of those choices, like let's take PHP for example. PHP doesn't ever run. Like it's not ever running. It's only run in response to a call. So having something listen in PHP doesn't really work because there's no PHP process that's continuously going. So when you're using the REST API, you sort of lose the streaming ability. Now, some of these, that includes embedded systems. Now, some of these languages can handle what's called streaming REST, where basically you open up a REST connection and you send a command in a certain way so that the connection stays open and then the REST client will keep sending data through. It's ugly and it's painful. And having done it, if you can avoid doing it, avoid doing it. But it is a way of like, let's say you've got a system that's already up and running and you want to add some front-end real-time to it or some way of collecting real-time information back into a back-end other than Firebase, you can absolutely do it with this. Just keep in mind that it's not pretty. Actually, the Nest, has anybody here worked with Nest thermostats? They're pretty cool. And they're all written in with Nest. And to work with that from PHP, I used this API, and it was great. Like the API works fantastic, but you have to ask yourself, like, why are you doing this when you can just do it in the client and skip a server-side backend for it? So it's definitely there for you to use, but make sure that you actually need to have that look up to it because you lose some of the real-time capabilities. Now, authentication scheme. So you have data, and you have people reading and writing to it, and that needs to be secured. We have an authentication scheme, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. You can register your own emails and passwords with Firebase. You can either do it manually through the API, and through the interface, and I'll show you that. Or you can use the APIs to build that into your app. So we basically could be the authentication store for you if you want. We can also do third-party authentication with Google, with Twitter, with Facebook, and with GitHub. And then if there's some sort of solution that you have that we haven't addressed, you can create a custom token for it and use that. And that's really helpful if you're hooking up like a node system to it. You can use that to do authentication, and it works pretty well. So let me just show you real quick what this looks like. I'm not going to ask you guys to type any of it. But basically, if I'm here in the Firebase Forge, the UI the UI for this, down here at the bottom, I have login and auth. So I click on that, and you'll see that I have a whole bunch of options here. I can enable, and you choose to enable them. I can do Facebook, Twitter, Google. I can do anonymous. Don't recommend it. Custom, and then email and password, and you'll see it gives you a whole interface here for password resets, and you can handle it all through our interface. And then I've just gone through and added 2 users here. So now that I have this authentication store, up here you'll see this little thing is giving me an alert. It's saying like, basically, you have no security on this, right? And that's bad. So we want to add some security to it. So basically right now the whole thing is read true, write true. So basically anybody can read to or write to it, which is suboptimal from a security standpoint. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see, where is it? Rules. So basically I'm going to change the rules. I'm just going to drop them in, and I'm going to explain what's going on here. And then I'll bump up the text so we can read it. So rules, I say you can only read if you're authenticated, right? So if not auth, null. So you cannot read to it. Same thing with write. If you're not if you're not authenticated, you can't write to it. And then we're going to validate here and say that if the new data coming in, the name is a string, and the name equals your authentication piece, then we will allow it through, right? So now that I save these rules, my original client isn't going to work, right? Because I'm going to go back and go to the auth version of this. And you'll see that I've written it slightly different, so it takes a name and password. So I'm going to add, let's see, I'm going to add that account that I added, if I can remember the password. And I'm going to put a junk password in, and it should, yep, you're going to see down below here in console, nope, didn't show up. I'm catching it, it's okay. But if I add the right one, this should come up, and I can now see all the messages that were there. I'll type a new message, hello. You'll see that's coming in, and if I create a new window for this, still have the same deal here, so I'll say earl@ragefast.com, ragefast, and yo. There we go. So, okay, there you see, pretty quick, pretty easy. I added authentication. It won't allow me to do stuff. So if let's see, if I try to break stuff here, so if I say, let's see, my Firebase push, let's see, name equals Terry, text equals set this, you'll see that, okay. Doesn't like that because it thinks it's a variable. Quotes around it. Doing this, it will prevent me from doing it. It'll say failed permission denied, and then it'll show it for reasons that pass understanding. But Firebase itself shouldn't show it. If I look back here, let's see, data, you'll see that that data is not there. So it prevents it from running, you still have to write the client-side rules to prevent it from showing in your app, but kind of very quickly makes that go away and not have to deal with the security side of it. Okay, so that's authentication. The last piece we'll talk about is hosting. So Firebase apps that are JavaScript, HTML, CSS, they're static, right? There's no server-side component to it. There's no, there's no PHP. There's no Ruby. We can host that for you. So we can do that with static content. We'll push it to our edge servers, our CDNs, so that you don't have to worry about kind of pushing your data really close to the user. And you can handle custom domains, or you could use ours, so that's not a problem. And the publishing function for it is all command line. So if I were to do that, let's see. Let me get rid of the rules first, or this isn't going to work. Firebase.com. Login. There's app. So I'm just real going to quick change this back to true and all this. Save the rules. Okay, it doesn't like when you don't have security rules, which is kind of a nice feature, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I can do Firebase deploy, and it's going to load that up. You'll see that it kind of quickly loaded that up because it's just HTML, JavaScript, CSS. And then I can go to this URL, and basically what I uploaded was this whole directory, and in this directory I have an index that I already wrote that already works. So if I go up, fire that up on there, you can see all of their stuff, all the stuff that was there is available. And this sort of kind of plays on how this can work in different clients. That HTML file that I was calling before is on my disk, right? It's not up. I didn't pull it down through the browser. I pulled it off the local file system. But even though the clients are in different places, this client is up on the website. The client was on my desktop. Wow, I really can't be that close. Yes, hi everyone. I should really not leave that unsecured. But there you go. So that's sort of hosting in action, and really quickly get that stuff up there and can run with it. So that was Firebase. All right, conclusions. So that's Firebase. It's relatively simple, relatively painless to work with. The one thing I would make sure that you need a real-time backend. If you're doing something where you're doing image processing, you probably don't need real-time. Or you might not, you may, you might not. If you are not collaborating between multiple people, you probably don't need real-time. And as much as we'd love your business, it might not be the optimal thing for you. So don't, it's great, it's really fast, it's really easy, it's a really lightweight NoSQL store. But if you just need a NoSQL store, there are other solutions. This is for when you need that real time, when you need to sync up multiple clients in multiple places doing the same thing at once. So just keep that in mind. So if you want to learn more, Firebase.com is definitely a good starting spot. You can also go to Firebase.com/docs, which is a really, really good intro to everything. And the tutorial that we tried to do here is there, and you can do it online. Like, you don't even have to download anything to your desktop. You can just do it on the web page. And then our YouTube account at Firebase. And thank you. If you want any of the materials that were up here, if you go to terrenceryan.com/thanks, you can download all of them. And all of the code is licensed, so you can use anything you saw here, you can use. All right, thank you guys very much. I'll stick around for questions, but otherwise, have a good rest of the day.